So hello, everybody. Welcome to this fifth panel of the today's Civil Society Forum. And this is a panel dedicated to the question of digitalization, cybersecurity, and data protection. First of all, welcome to all participants. And many thanks to the organizers for organizing this panel, especially in this composition. I'm really curious to have this discussion and about the challenges we are facing in regards to the mentioned topic. And first of all, before I come to our panelists and the welcome, of course, just few remarks to the audience. Due to the time constraints we have a discussion of about 60 minutes. We will have first an input by Danilo Krivokapić about the political recommendations of the first Civil Society Forum held at the beginning of June on this topic. And afterwards, I will ask State Secretary Banović as well as Mr. Vesović from the Chamber of the Serbian Chamber of Industry to comment on these recommendations. All panelists are asked to have an input of about maximum 5 minutes. And then we will also ask you as the audience to give us questions and remarks, especially questions through the Q&A function, or you can also raise your hand and we will to pose any questions and we will open up your mic without any video. But now starting with the panel, because I mentioned we have some time constraints, please welcome with me our panelists, State Secretary for Public Administration, Digital Society and Media, Ms. Marina Banović. Great to have you here. And maybe just to mention at the very beginning, Montenegro has a special obligation, I would say, or pleasure this year to hold the Digital Summit for the Western Balkans. So perfect to have you here and to get you in this discussion. And also many thanks and welcome to Danilo Krivokapić, the director of the Share Foundation, which is promoting digital rights and much more in the region, and who is the facilitator of the working group on digitalization, as I understood, and he will explain to us the recommendations, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And last but not least, please welcome with me Mr. Vesović, who is the director of the Sector for Strategic Analysis, Services and Internationalization of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Serbia, which is also part of the Chamber's Investment Forum of the Western Balkans. So again, welcome to you all. And without any further ado, I would like to give you the floor, Danilo, for your intervention and the recommendations the working group or the CSF actually has produced on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. I have to say I had a great discussion with my colleagues from the whole region, and together we made this recommendation. Let me just briefly say that something that is completely evident, and that is that there are no longer borders between a material and digital world. This became even more evident during COVID-19 pandemics, and all countries in our region are making strong digital efforts, and there's practically no going back, and I think it should stay like that. What is politically important is to say that at the Western Balkan Summit in Sofia in November last year, a consensus was reached that strong digitalization efforts are necessary in order to bring all these countries closer to European Union. And now this digitalization comes with many benefits. Some of them are that around 50% less time is spent in interaction with public institutions, and around 50% less money is spent for the companies when interacting with public institutions. But my role is to talk a bit more about challenges of digitalization, and of course one of the main challenges are issues concerning personal data. So all countries in the region faced massive data leaks or data breaches. And let me just name a few from Serbia, such as publishing of data of 5 million citizens on the official website, or publishing credentials for the COVID-19 system, and so on and so on. And what is important to say, this is something that we call clumsy digitalization. So good intentions, but not enough knowledge in these areas. What is the really important thing to do is working on the legal framework. European Union has very good, maybe the best in the world, legal framework regarding data protection, and some countries already aligned their laws with European Union. Some of them stated in their strategy that they are going to make new laws in accordance with these from European Union, because this is the golden standard when it comes to data protection. What is also very important is accountability. So each time when there was some data leak or data breach, there was almost never accountability, and we never had any serious fines or something like that. What are other really important challenges and opportunities is when we talk about open data. So this is one of the main opportunities when we were talking about digitalization in public services, because economic value of open data estimates around 184 billion euros at the moment. So this is a great economic opportunity. On the other hand, one of the main challenges is digital literacy, which is one of the main prerequisites in order to have efficient digital services. It is a problem that there are no comparative data when it comes to digital literacy in the region, but some reports say that around 50% of citizens in Serbia are digital illiterate, and it shouldn't be much different in the other countries in the region. Also, one of the main challenges is user centricity. So in order to have efficient e-services, you need to have applications and services that are as easy as, example, e-banking and other services that we have. When it comes to policy recommendation that we made, I won't go into all of them, they're all published, but let me just state the most important ones. The first is that Western Balkan governments should adopt comprehensive legal framework in the field of digitalization and data protections in line with EU standards, which are setting the golden standards. Also, governments should engage in increasing digital competencies of public administration, but also increasing the level of digital literacy of general public. Governments should publish and update data in open formats, and services should be developed in user-centric manner. What is also important is to have governments that are guided by principles of data protection by design and data protection by default when designing e-services. And really important, governments should acknowledge the importance of accountability in cases of data protection violations. Just two recommendations for the EU, and I'm done for this first part. The EU should continue to set golden standards for tackling emerging issues in the use of advanced technology. For example, this regulation for artificial intelligence that is in the process is really important one, and EU should insist on the same level of accountability in cases of data protection violations and incidents from Western Balkan countries as for the member states. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Danilo, for this sum up of the recommendations, and there were much more in the paper, and I really can recommend to all the others just to take a look on this one, just to see where also we have discussed or at the civil society forum recommendations, and sometimes in other fora. We also discuss recommendations to the governments, especially when it comes to harmonization and alignment. So I really can recommend this. And now I would like to give the floor to State Secretary Banović, who I cannot see right now here on my screen. Ah, she's with us. Wonderful. So Marina, the floor is yours. And maybe before handing over to you, one remark, and you, Danilo, focused already on this topic of public administration, which should be here in this discussion, the focal point of the discussion. But I think it's essential also when we talk about how to develop or talk about the businesses and all the others. So we have here a nice or a perfect bridge, I would say. But first, the floor is yours, Marina.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be together with you all today at this panel. I think the initiative that has been finished was really important and appreciated, I would say, at least by the administration I belong to. And I think it's very important to hear the voice of civil sector in this area, and I've been for a relatively short period of time in my position actually at all in public administration, but actually in this short period I realized actually that civil sector is a relatively important player in processes of digital transformation of the society in Montenegro, in the country I'm coming from. So we are actually quite grateful on the policy remarks and recommendations that have been produced during the session. And I've heard Danilo talking about data protection as one of the priorities that has been identified, and I can also talk on the others. And I agree that this is quite important topic, and I think there are several layers to it. One layer is a legal framework that is started to be produced around the region. In some countries have been better in that, some been not so good. But as we all know, a problem, a common problem in the region, I would say, is more about law enforcement than on law production. So design of the legal framework often exists and it's pretty good, but the law enforcement is a topic that administrations should focus on, I would say. The second thing is GDPR legislation has been in place in Europe for about I don't know, 2 years or so, and it's in practice it created a number of challenges for implementation. So it's quite complex as a structure, and it brings a lot of I would say it brought a lot of things to be sorted out throughout the time. And what I think should be used by the region is actually the practices of other countries that have been in process for already some time, and we could just use those practices and try to pursue them locally as fast as possible. So I would say these are the reflections related to the data protection. I would actually mention one more thing to it. It's about the awareness of citizens about data protection. I think in principle, the people from the region are not very sensitive to the importance of personal data and importance of maybe not sharing that easily. It's just part of the culture that this that people are not enough sensitive to this topic. It is just a cultural thing, and I think this is another aspect of this topic that should be taken in consideration, and that should be a common let's say task for both government but also civil sectors, for cooperation on raising the awareness of citizens on the topic as such. So I don't know, Danilo, have you talking about other things? Because for a moment I've lost the connection. So I know what is in the paper, so I could go further and comment on other things. But
there was also mentioned by Danilo the topic of digital literacy, which is important to work on that one. Maybe you can comment on this one too, because this is digital skills is one of the important topics we have within the Digital Summit series. So yeah, maybe that would be good.
Yes, really one very, very important topic, because digital transformation is not possible without digital skills. We can look at that in different layers or different levels. So basically, what is whole world is facing the lack of IT experts. On all levels, especially programming is an issue. We're talking about million programmers lacking in European Union. In a small Montenegro, we're talking about 500 people missing in this part of IT, I would say, at this moment. So 650,000 people is lacking something like 500. It's almost 1% of the population should be educated in programming, so that we meet the demand that exists at the labor market at the moment. So a big thing, and I guess since the problem has its layers, it should be.
Oh, now we are losing a bit the connection again. So I'm afraid that State Secretary Banović has to redial. So maybe I would stop then here, and we just wait for the better connection again. And I would give the floor to Mihailo Vesović just to get a comment from the business community's perspective, maybe. And yeah. The floor is yours, and then we have a lot of topics I would give in the second round, and especially once Marina is back with us.
I'm very happy to have this kind of panel to discuss this topic. I mean, this is one of the probably best stories, economical stories in Serbia and in the region as a whole, is the development of the IT sector, especially the IT solution providers. Just to give you a short overview, what's going on in Serbia, for example, that we have the 5% of the Serbian annual GDP is basically from the sector of the ICT. There is about 100,000 people employed in the ICT sector, which is 10% rise in 2020 compared to 2019. Then you have 25 ICT companies, which are out of which 15,000 are about computer programming. And the IT sector exported more than 1.3 billion euros in last year. And one of the most important parts of the IT segment that's most developed is energy management, e-health, Internet of Things, geolocation, gaming, and so on. Concerning the overall threats that we are facing, well, first of all, I must say that financial sector is still most exposed to the cyber attacks, which is kind of normal. But then again, you see the banking and financial sector investing the most in the IT protection, not just financially and technologically, but also with education of their management and people working there. Second to that is production activities. As much as we like to work from home, as much as we like to use the digital tools, on the other hand, the production facilities are more and more exposed every year. And on the third place, I must say that the energy sector is the third one that is mostly affected. Also, the e-commerce sector is also affected. And the question, what I like from the paper that you presented, Danilo, at the start is basically there are no borders concerning the data protection and cybersecurity, and that is probably something that we all must take with us and learn that there is no data protection inside one country and inside region. Of course, the state-of-the-art legislation is coming from the EU, and what is good news for the West Balkan 6 economies is that we are part of that European community policy for the Western Balkans, and we actually adopted it. And I must say that the common regional market as West Balkan 6 economies, basically in its actual action plan that is adopted last fall, has a whole segment on digitalization processes in West Balkan, which include the digital protection, cyber protection, and legislation. I must say that Serbia is probably under the chapter of 10, according to what is going on with the negotiation practice with the European Commission, adopted the cyber security and data protection law as a law on information security, a law on personal data protection. And aside from that, we also adopted the law on e-commerce. More or less, we have a state-of-the-art new state data center that is already used, and there are a lot of operational mechanisms as the government and the Ministry of Interior has its unit for combating high technology crimes and so on. So we do have a lot of institutions, a lot of legislation that should be implemented, and hopefully the all Western Balkan countries in the process of accession will harmonize and use this as a tool to import. But nevertheless, what is our role, main role, is not just to talk about threats and possibilities in the IT security, because the whole IT security is also making a market position for a lot of IT companies that are dealing with it. The chamber itself here in Serbia is issuing the digital certificates. We are now doing the face recognition. We are complying to every rule of the cybersecurity, and very much. But what is missing is the small, medium-sized enterprises in the whole picture. They don't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of knowledge and a lot of technology. So the government has to come in with the support of the most vulnerable part of the economy and the small, medium-sized enterprises to help them learn about threats, to help them make the managers that are dealing with the data security, and at least to buy needed equipment programs, or to be included in the different projects for the data security. They cannot do it by themselves. So I'm not worrying about the multinationals and banking sector, because they are using the knowledge, the state-of-the-art security, and although they are also in a lot of problems, as we can learn recently, but the small, medium-sized enterprises need to have help and support from the different institutions, from the education side to the financing side of the problem.
Thanks a lot, Mihailo, for this intervention. And actually, I would like to give back to you, Danilo, the floor, just to comment also on this you've just heard, or the feedback of the recommendations you've got. And I would like to add a question directly from the audience. There was a question: what is the reason for the lack of digitalization? The network which I experienced in the Western Balkan countries were quite good, better than in many German provinces. It is poverty maybe, or it is deficits in education. So we tackled already some points as regards digital skills and literacy, but maybe you can also pick up this question and comment on that one. Thanks. Nice to have done with yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. So I mean, I would maybe like to comment on this issue of awareness of the citizens regarding data protection issues, and I completely agree with Secretary Marina that awareness is lacking in the whole region. This is, as she said, cultural thing. because we are post-socialist societies where privacy was not big value. But I have to say, we as a Share Foundation work a lot on this raising awareness of the citizen, and this is very important to do. But when we are talking about data protection these days, there is not much citizens can actually do. So the whole power when we are talking about data is in the hand of companies and government. So we can, as citizens, do as much as we want, but if awareness of the governments and companies is not high, then we will have a problem. I can maybe say that, for example, our government procured mass surveillance technology with facial recognition software for mass surveillance of citizens in Serbia, and then they found out after doing data protection impact assessment and talking with our commissioner for data protection that they actually cannot use this technology. So we, for example, procured technology that we cannot use. So I think that awareness of the government is also very important. And also both of the speakers agreed that we have state-of-the-art laws in Serbia, for example, and yes, I agree, having laws is one thing, but as Marina also stated, enforcement is a much bigger issue in these countries. But I have to say this is important step. So everything we did in the last year or two when we were working on issues of data protection, massive leaks, we did using this new law on data protection that is basically translated GDPR. So as I said, yes, laws are the first step, but they're very, very important. And regarding the question from the audience, I think maybe this is the better question for Marina and Mihajlo, but I wouldn't say, especially from Serbian perspective, that digitalization is lacking in Serbia. So we have really strong digital agenda from the government, and I would say massive efforts are made. My perspective is that to find some challenges in this aspect, but I would say that it is going quite well. I don't know, maybe other speakers can answer also.
I can join if you don't mind, Anya. What we've done 2 years, 3 years ago, we basically asked the companies, do they understand what is the digital transformation and how to use modern technology, and are they aware of, and unfortunately the results are very comparable in the whole region, even in some parts of the European Union. Although you're right, we have you can say on the rural part of the Serbia, you have a better connectivity than in a lot of parts of Germany, which is kind of absurd, which says that we really did the infrastructure part, at least in Serbia, more or less solidly. But unfortunately, the companies are 50% of the companies do not have any agenda or plan, or were not aware. I think that the last year and a half of this, what we went all through, really speed up the processes and the awareness of the need for the digital transformation of their businesses if they want to survive. So it's been done a lot. It's been done a lot, mostly by the bigger companies with the e-commerce, with the possibilities for, and the startups that occurred basically on the digital platforms and models that they used from the start. The problem is the traditional industry. The problem is the expectation that the traditional industry, especially if you are not internationalized player, you're just local player, you believe that you can still work on with the traditional level of this digitalization. And that's what we mostly did, the awareness campaign of the fact that it's not a fact that you have to reach the foreign market, it's the fact that you can reach the local market cheaper to raise your productivity, and to explain them that you should change the model of business according to the technology that is now not even in some expense, too expensive at this point of time. So there is a lot of companies that have plans, but they're not structured good. They believe that their digitalization is to have a web-based platform and maybe sell something online or have an email communication, which is not the point of the overall digitalization. On the other hand, the government provided a lot of new instruments, and there has been a lot of talk about the possibilities for digitalization. Nevertheless, the money part is where you have to invest in your digital security, in your digital tools for your company, is something that should be, we are fighting to have it, okay, 50%, 70% of the expenses should go on the burden of the companies, but at least in the phase of where you have to push them to go through this process, you need to have kind of subvention. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. Thank you, Mihailo. Actually, I would thanks for this comment, especially on how to include the small and medium-sized businesses. As once we talk about digitalization and economic development in the region, by far this is much the most important thing, besides the fact of data security and all the others. Actually, Maria, I would like to give the floor to you, maybe to get a comment. Unfortunately, we lost you once we were at this point of the demand of the labor market in the region for IT experts, but maybe we can also bridge again and come back also to the recommendations Danilo represented, especially when it comes to the topic of implementing the laws. So as I understand, there are the laws available, but the question is how to implement them. And unfortunately, the picture is frozen, but maybe Marina, you can switch off your video and then it works. Because actually I wanted to bridge and to give the floor to Marina, as she's with us from Montenegro, which is actually high and perfectly connected, I would say, infrastructure-wise. So because this is maybe a point also to underline, it's not, so of course there has to be improved the broadband connectivity within the region, which is also part of the common regional market agenda and the action plan. But much more it is to connect also maybe the small towns and provinces or urban rural areas. That was the word I'm looking for. So Marina, you're back with us. Perfect. I'm not sure. So I would like to give the floor to you, and maybe you can also pick up the point on how we can make sure that the laws which are available are implemented, because it's nice to have a good legal framework as itself, but it should be work. And maybe you can also elaborate a bit about how to include civil society organizations, as we have the Civil Society Forum, and maybe we should talk about much more the dialogue among politics, businesses, and civil society.
Well, I think that basically in this talk about let's talk about let's say the legal acts that are rather facilitating digitalization than maybe do work on the side of protection, cybersecurity, and that area, which is, for example, law on e-governance, law on e-documents. And these documents, they exist in the whole region for a very long period of time, and they are good laws, but they didn't find the implementation in practical use for different reasons. The main reason is still that we as citizens are not used on and don't trust to the electronic documents equally as we trust, for example, the paper documents. I'm using this example because we're now changing the law on e-document and realizing that the law has been in place for since 2004 and not big progress has been done there. Okay, there are some barriers that this law is now overcoming, but still it could have been better. So Danilo, I have to go back again to the let's say individual responsibility and in a way citizens, but even more business role in the whole in this area, and I think that again the government also plays role here in terms of incentivizing the actors in order to implement things. It's very hard to be strict and to let's say forbid coming to the certain office to ask for a document and that way to pursue the digitalization. That would be pretty much difficult to implement in the practice. But I've heard that kind of proposals too throughout the development of this law. However, I don't think we're going to be that much strict on the topic, but probably some we will move in the field of incentivizing citizens and businesses to use digital tools in order to, or digital services, e-services, in order to please their needs. So this is one way of looking into the things, and I guess this could be the way to go, or actually this is how do we play. And regarding the question that arrived through from the audience, I would agree that the big steps have been done in terms of digitalization in the whole region, in some countries, but more than in some others. What I see in Montenegro is that it's not equal in all sectors. There are sectors that are really good in it, like tax administration, education, maybe health, but in some other areas it's not so advanced as it should be, or it's not at the level it should be. So a bit more of structural approach to the whole whole topic should be probably applied. So yes, that much for this time.
Sorry, the usual sentence, you have to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. Thanks a lot for this comment. Just let me shortly give you the question, how we can include the civil society organizations to maybe boost a bit the process of, because obviously we talk about trust, trust in institutions, trust in e-paper, e-documents. So there's a lot of things to do. The government has to do its own work, but obviously we need other stakeholders to get involved. Is that the right?
Yeah, I would say so. And my belief is that this involvement of all stakeholders should be from the beginning of development of the certain documents. And this is what we actually implemented this year in working on some strategic documents that we are producing, and we are doing the strategy on digital transformation, strategy on cybersecurity, program for attraction of digital nomads and the ICT investments, and the document on law on e-document. And the decision was that, and my strong belief is that we need to involve stakeholders from the very beginning, from when we have a time plan. So this is what we did. And in our working groups for each of these documents, there are partners from civil society, but also from business association representatives, academia representatives, and governmental representatives too. So the intention is that these documents should not belong to the government. They are belonging to they should belong to all stakeholders. And I think this kind of relationship and approach can be reached only if all partners are involved from the beginning of design of a document throughout its process of writing it down to the moment in which it should be also implemented. I see that this works, and at least in the at this stage, and this is relatively initial stage for this document, there is a lot of energy and commitment from all sides to work on this. And I would say through looking at the problems from all different perspectives will give also the instruments and the ways of dealing with the topics, with the challenges, with the issues, if you want. So I think this kind of inclusive way of approaching all social and in this particular moment digital topics can give results.
Thank you very much, Marina. Maybe I can hand over to you, Danilo. Maybe you can comment on that one. How you, as a representative of the civil society organizations, would like to see the involvement, because that was one of the recommendations, that you should be involved, but the question is now how to involve. Yeah. And as we hear, there are obviously some institutional settings already to involve, but once you have this recommendation, obviously there's maybe a lack or a gap between idea how to involve and who to involve, maybe also.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We talked quite a lot regarding that topic in my working group, and we made several things that civil societies can do in order to improve services. For once, we should advocate and monitor the process of adoption of legal framework. We should also oversee the implementation of adopted legislation. So this is the first thing. We should also alert the public in the cases of severe violation of digital rights. And regarding to some of the challenges, CSOs should offer expertise to the government for designing e-services in user-centric manner. So there is expertise, but also the communities that civil societies are working with. We should also utilize open data increasingly and promote successful use of open data. This is really important in order to continue to publish data in open format. What we should also do is raise awareness on the importance of digital literacy of citizens and public servants. And we should also strive to work as CSOs together on a regional level on these issues, because we all have similar issues. And last, we also agree that CSOs should raise internal capacities in order to understand and deal with issues related to digitalization in public services. So there's a lot of things that civil societies can do in order to help, also as the private sector has so many knowledges that can help government continue in this field. We also made this interesting recommendation because, as Marina said, the lack of IT experts, especially in public services, is really important issue, because governments don't have enough money to keep IT experts. So this is very important because they can earn much more money in private sector. So we have this recommendation that governments should find innovative solutions to keep high quality professionals and build external partnership with private sector. So this is the only way. It's really difficult, to have someone with the salary of, 5 less than in private sector.
Thank you, Danilo, for building this bridge. Actually, that was one of the points I wanted to take on the agenda as well. And actually, I would like to give the word to Georgia Krivokapić, because there was a question regarding the digital common market before I hand over to Mihailo to comment on that one. Can you unmute, please, Georgia Krivokapić? And Georgia, you have to unmute yourself too. You don't have a mic. Okay, so then I read out your question. Perfect. And the question was, what can we do to enhance Western Balkans digital common market? do you think that such market is needed, and what are potential advantages? So it's somehow, so we started already to talk about the borders which not any longer existing, especially if we talk about digitalization. But maybe you can again just pick up this question.
First point is what is mostly needed for the region is basically to be more competitive and more productive in order to get closer to the European economies that we are all striving to become part of the European Union. So the digitalization is one of the means how to raise the productivity and competitiveness of the companies from all the region. Second thing is, I think that the digitalization and the regional concept or aspect of it is basically a great instrument for the regional connection. And to build a unique economic area, you have to have the instruments that are in line on the whole region, and not just on the legislative part, but also on the technological part. If you want to have, I don't know, unburdened no stops at the borders, you have to get in line or implement a digital solution of pre-custom that basically you apply before your truck starts moving from, I don't know, Macedonia to Serbia or Albania, Bosnia, Montenegro, and then just to have a short check on the border, because one of the biggest problems is the transport and uneven procedures in the different countries, and especially exchange of the information. If you have the different administrative parts or governmental parts that need to check either from sanitary or veterinarian certificates, because most of the goods is production or food products, you need to have them in the same manner digitalized, and in the same manner they have to be unique. And in that sense, the digitalization could be a great tool for faster integration in the region and shortening and harmonization in general, harmonization of the procedure. You cannot lie to the application. And if you have the same aspects of or same applications on different sides of the borders, it's easily to connect them and to have much less administrative barriers, which is one of the problems. And a third thing that maybe we didn't mention, but in general, the whole region suffers from the migration problem. And one of the aims of the digitalization, one of the aims of the establishing of different tools for the ICT companies is basically to make them able to prevent the brain drain, because the average salary in the IT company of the software engineer in Serbia is around 2,000 euros. And concerning it's basically more than twice higher than average salary on the other fields. So the reason for those young people to move to another country, there are less and less reason, and especially if they can make their own businesses and work on the global market, that's one of the ways how to stop the migration. Even we faced a lot of our people that were working abroad the last year and a half while they were working from home. Because of this, coming back to Serbia, if they have a good digital connection, they basically were able to work for any international company all over the world. And that brought a lot of younger people back home.
Thank you, Mihailo, for this statement. And I just before we have somehow already come to a closing, I would ask the audience, once you have a question, you have now the chance to put the question in the Q&A, and then we can also pick them up and ask our experts and panelists on that one. If you do not do so, okay. I think we have a lot of topics we can discuss further, and I actually also would like to ask you to comment again on because the topic on how to prevent or how to keep experts in the region, for sure, that was a question from the very beginning and of these today's sessions, and it's like a red line in all these discussions, I would say. This is one thing, but as I understood, and that's why I would again, Danilo, pick up this recommendation you mentioned of innovative and creative solutions to keep IT experts with the public administration, because that was our starting point of that panel, that public administration and the digitalization of public administration can help a lot also to get transparency in processes. And so but we cannot discuss all this wonderful digitalization without having the experts to produce the systems and to keep the systems running, right? And also to help to protect the data. So did you had any ideas maybe how this innovative partnership between public services and the business could look like, or is that would be something we should discuss and elaborate further in specific dialogue between governments and CSOs?
Yeah, we didn't have a specific solutions, but it's a really difficult question. I mean, how to keep IT experts in public sector. But as I said, this is maybe more questions for Marina working in the government, but the rules for public servants are really strict. So today it's really difficult to keep IT experts with such a strict rules, maybe give them some more freedom in their work or something like that. This is what comes to my mind. But as I said, this is really a difficult question.
Yeah, that was my next idea, Maria. Maybe you can comment on that one, and maybe there are already discussions among the economies in the region about this issue, and maybe that could be also part of the dialogue on within the digital summits. I don't know. So
yes.
Maybe we can take this point on the list.
Yes,
for the discussions.
Definitely, it's true that we cannot go further into digitalization without having experts in keeping experts in the government. So there is one thing where there is a lack of experts of a certain kind, and when we are talking about digitalization, it is exactly of ICT background. And even if you find them, they need specific skills to develop in order to be operative in their work. Once they are operative, then they leave. They leave either for local market or they leave for international market. Nowadays, we are not in ICT segment, we are competing on global market. Although people are, as Mihailo mentioned, sitting in Serbia or Montenegro or Bosnia, they are working overseas. And it's hard to compete. So you're not benchmarking only with the companies within the Montenegro, but with the companies on the global scene. So it's a big question mark how to deal with this question. And I would say that regarding the experts themselves, it is to redefine the benefit packages for this kind of employees. The rules are strict, but if it is fair and transparent, and if it regards certain segment of government servant, public servants, it's possible to do something in that area. Another thing is educational programs that you would offer to the employees, to ICT experts, especially they are younger employees, so they could get a quite advanced educational program and maybe commit to stay with the government for next 5 years in order to, let's say, pay the investment into the knowledge. These are the lines in which we do think. And regarding the let's say, cooperation between business and the government in this area, it's mainly outsourcing. So there are areas of the work in ICT segment that can be outsourced to business companies that are working in the area. Here, I would just there was at the beginning note on cybersecurity, and I think that this area is particularly vulnerable in terms of expertise in all countries, and these are the most demanded people in demand in terms of labor market, and it's very hard to, and it's complex to educate them, and it's easy to lose them. And this is a common problem that all the economies are suffering with. And I would say that cybersecurity should be one of the first segment that we could think of regional integration over. I mean, the type of the topic is doesn't knows about the borders, first of all, and it can be managed. It doesn't have to be locally managed. It can be managed from another center of excellence situated somewhere else. So I'm not talking just about the usual and common and already existing collaboration between the centers for combating cyber threats, but maybe even some regional structure that could unify all strengths of all countries and really address the problem from a very high level, let's say, in all sense. And this does not mean that we would not keep the current structures that already exist. Yes, we would, and they would have enough job anyhow. But this area becomes so sophisticated that it's really very, very difficult for countries, small countries, as all we are, to adequately face it.
Thanks a lot. As we have left 2 minutes for this panel, and I was asked to close in time, I actually would like to give Danilo the floor for the last remark, and would like to ask you also to pick up or to refer to the last question we received in the Q&A, which is about the role of civil society. Civil society has an important role in protecting and enhancing the human rights and economic rights. It looks like in Western Balkans there's a sensitivity in this regard, more in the freedom of information issues rather in the data protection. Do you think that more active role from the civil society in data protection in regards to the interaction with different public institutions would help in the raising of awareness in this regard? And so the floor is yours, 2 minutes, and then we have to close the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you for this question. I completely agree with everything noted here. Absolutely, that communication, interaction with public institution is super important. I can speak for our own experience in regards to data protection. So we have really good communications with Commissioner for Data Protection, with National CERT, which is National Computer Emergency Response Team, and with Ministry of Telecommunications, which is competent ministry when it comes to law on digital security. So just I'll mention this example from the beginning, when during pandemic credentials for accessing the COVID-19 information systems were released on the internet. So this was the Easter, I remember, and we contacted both Commissioner, National CERT, and Ministry, and I have to say, in less than an hour, these credentials were removed. So this was really quick reaction from the state authorities, because we developed really good communication with them over the years. So I can only completely agree with the question.
Thanks a lot. And so we have the 5:15, and I unfortunately have to close this panel. Many thanks to all the panelists. Many thanks to the organizers for arranging this panel. And as I started, especially in this composition, because obviously this is a topic where we need the politics, we need the businesses, and of course we need the CSOs to support and to raise awareness, obviously, when it comes to data protection for the people, and to awareness on the people's side as well as on the administration side. So again, many thanks, and have a nice day. And there's a short break, and afterwards we have the last panel, I think, for today's session. So stay tuned. Thank you.